Hi, welcome to my review. Actually, this is part 2 of my restoring Hallicrafters SX25 multiband radio from Chicago, and this one came from Illinois. Or Connecticut, I think it was Connecticut. Yeah, Connecticut, sorry. So yeah, this is a Hallicrafters SX25 from 1941. And I traced the serial number, and it says it was probably sometime in 1941 that this one was made. So I think they were made from 1940 to 1950. So this is an early edition Hallicrafters SX25. And it came all the way from Connecticut to Vancouver, Canada. And so there it is, Super Defiant. It's not the top one. It's like it's near the top of the range of their multiband radios. High frequency communication receiver. Super Defiant from Hallicrafters, Chicago, USA. And so that's what it looks like. I've started restoring it. This is part 2 of my restore video. And I've done lots of cleaning. You can see the plastic on that S meter. And you can see the S meter is like in the middle. So I had to take that all apart, and the S meter dial wasn't moving freely. It was caught on a little piece of rubber that had broken off. It was a little piece of rubber gasket that had broken off and was lodged inside the S meter. So there's the inside of the case. It's super dusty. I've done a lot of cleaning with rubbing alcohol, soap and water, and I also used toluene on the paint, which worked okay because it didn't damage the paint. So yeah, done lots of cleaning, and I did an initial testing of the tubes just to make sure that the filaments weren't burnt out, or they weren't broken. The filaments weren't broken in the tubes. So I did a little bit of testing on the tubes, tested all the tubes, redid the wires for the tuning. So the cords, as you can see, I took apart the cords and I'm just putting in new cords in the tuning. Cleaning off the old grease, putting in a little bit of new oil. And then taking out the old cords and putting in new cords. And then making sure they're nice and tight, and then tying them all in, and then make sure there's no slipping, that the dials don't slip at all. So you have to do it pretty tight so that nothing slips. As you're going around the tuning dial, you don't want the cord to slip at all. So you have to do it pretty tight and take up any slack at all. There can't be any slack. It has to be taut. So yeah, I'm in the middle of doing that. This is what it looked like when I got it right out of the box, when it was shipped from Connecticut to Vancouver. I just took it out of the box, and this is what it looked like. You can see it's quite grimy, but the paint's in good shape. All the labeling is in good shape. All the knobs are in good shape. It's in pretty good shape, basically, except for it's dirty. And electronically it needs to be fixed. I didn't even try to power it up because of if you get a piece of electronics that's this old, with the old original capacitors, I wouldn't take a risk and even try to power it up. It's just not worth it until you start addressing the capacitors and resistors. There's the dented case. The case got dented in shipping, but nothing else got affected. The thing is like a tank. It's like all those front panel buttons come off. They have like a set screw that you can undo. This the little screw that's kind of on the side of each one, and then you can pull the knobs off, and then you can take those screws out on the side of the case and the bottom of the case and the back of the case, and then the whole case comes off the base. And you can see that's the original condition of the vent. It kind of looks like it's kind of sort of a copper color, but it isn't. It was kind of a silver color. It's just really dirty. But I redid the vents too. That was one of the big jobs that I did. So I wanted to do the redo the vents, and I wasn't sure how to do it. So I ended up electroplating the vents. So there you can see it's in unrestored condition. You can see there's a lot of, I think it's smoke. I think it was from the guy who owned it maybe smoked, because there was a lot of smoke in it, like sort of a yellow kind of nicotine kind of. I think that's what it is. And then a lot of dust, of course, as well. So when I took the toluene and I put it on a makeup pad and then I wiped everything down, there was a lot of yellowy, greasy stuff that came off. And where the tubes heat up, there was a lot of sort of almost like scorch marks on the case. But with a little bit of scrubbing, it looks a lot better than it did. So it's actually looking really good now. The only thing that's going on with the paint now is it's a little bit dull. So there's when I started electroplating. As you can see, I had this switch plate that I thought was made out of like brass or something, and I first started to do it, but it didn't work at all. So that's before I even turned the power on. And I got the muriatic acid water mixture going, and there's one of the vents in, and then my electric is connected, electricity is connected, and I used between 1.2 and 1.7 amps. And for some reason, when I was using my power supply, I could only set it at amps, so I couldn't set it to volts, so it was sort of locked on constant current. So when I turned it on, so I found that here's where I actually am right into plating, and you can see how orange the copper looks, and it tarnished really fast afterwards. So you can see that it looks good of like flaking. It's sort of black and flaking on the side that's closest to the copper heatsink that I was using to electroplate with. And but it's nice orange, and there was a lot of work because I had to take the part out, clean it off, and give it a little bit of a wire brush, and then flip it around and flip it over. And then I had to do that, and there was 2 of the vents, and I had to keep doing that like a dozen times on each one maybe. So it electroplated once I had, I think when I originally electroplated it really cleaned off all of the, if there was any dirt, it cleaned it off and made it good for electroplating. And then the combination of wire brushing and cleaning, you know, you have to have it. And yet I was holding everything with gloves, so you can't get any kind of grease or dirt on the part before you electroplate it, or else it'll affect the electroplating. There's after I've done a lot of cleaning. You can see how clean the case is looking now, and how clean everything is looking now. It's looking a lot better. I've spent a lot of time cleaning with alcohol and makeup pads, and soap and water, and toluene on the paint, and I tried to knock the case straight, the dent out of the case, and I cleaned all of the clear plastic or clear whatever it is, kind of plastic windows that were on the dials. Those are all cleaned out. So a lot of cleaning. There's a close-up of the cleaning, and you can see that everything's a lot better. The metal's nice and, as best as I can get it. I think that's, I don't think I'm going to get it any cleaner than that. So that's after a lot of hours cleaning. 2 or 3 sessions cleaning with Q-tips and alcohol and toluene and soap and water. And yeah, so you can see lots of work done so far. The dials are still kind of yellow, but there's nothing you can do about that. The original dials that show the stations and where you are on the dial, they're still kind of yellow, but there's really nothing you can do about that if you want to keep the original ones. There's the inside of the top of the case, and you can see that's a really nice photograph, but when I imported it into Lightworks, the pictures is not as good a resolution. I don't know why, but you can see the top of the inside of that case. It was really dirty, and I got it pretty clean, so it's like 100% better than what it was. It had like almost these scorch marks from the heat of the tubes on it. So yeah, it's a lot better than it was originally. And you can see that's where the new vents are in place now as well. That's a huge part that I wanted to fix, is those vents, because they're originally sort of a tin, and they look good, but I think they look a lot better with sort of the copper color. I don't know why, it's just my taste, but I think they look a lot better with the copper color. And they actually match the case because the copper is kind of tarnished. It ended up, when it gets exposed, after I did all of the plating, electroplating, the copper, it looks pretty tarnished already. And I put a lot of copper plating on there. I plated it and then replated it and replated it and flipped it around and replated it and flipped it over and replated it. And so there's a really heavy copper plating on that. It's the first time I've ever done electroplating. And if you're going to attempt to electroplating, especially the way I did it, with a little bit of muriatic acid. So I did 1 part muriatic acid to like 6 or 7 parts. I didn't really measure very accurately of water. And then I added a bit of salt. And altogether I used maybe 2.5 cups of water and maybe around, give or take, 1/2 cup of muriatic acid. And, wear gloves, wear eye protection, do it outside if you can. If you do it inside, make sure you have fans running, and you're by a window and it's blowing outside, because you don't want that vapor. You don't want to breathe that vapor in, and you don't want that vapor building up, because it's deadly dangerous. You want it blowing out. You don't want it anywhere near you. And so I even wore a vapor mask too. I wore like a respirator, like a vapor respirator, when I was doing it. And I had a fan constantly going, blowing the vapor outside. And I also used I didn't use a lot of chemical. The other thing too is you got to mix theirs with the brand new plated vent inside. I think it looks pretty good. And you can see the case kind of looks dull. It's really clean, but the case looks a little bit dull. So I might try to maybe add some carnauba wax, polish on top of the case. And I think that's what I'm going to do, because I always wanted to try that carnauba stuff. Just a small spray bottle of it. So that's what I might do for the case as a final. So yeah, the other thing too is you got to mix up baking soda and water and put it in a spray bottle. And if you get a drop of acid water mixture anywhere, you got to spray it down immediately with baking soda, water mixed in a spray bottle, because you got to neutralize the acid. You'll see it when you spray it'll start bubbling because you know it's neutralizing the acid. So there's a close-up of the side case. I think the copper electroplating looks amazing. So yeah, it looks pretty good, and it even has sort of an aged look to it too. So yeah, I really wanted to do something cool with the case. So I think that looks really good. And yeah, so that's one of the huge steps. I've ordered the Hayseed Hamfest SX25 Hallicrafters kit of new capacitors and a new can cap as well. So I'm going to redo all of the capacitors. It's on its way. I already ordered it just ordered it this week. So the capacitor kit's on its way, and then I'm going to do all the resistors. And then there's also the big mica caps that probably have to be fixed too, with new capacitors in the mica caps, because it's a big issue with all old radios that are like of that age, like the, from the 40s earlier and stuff. They have the capacitors that are mica capacitors, and they needed to be replaced with modern capacitors. And it's actually a tricky process because you kind of have to individually choose the capacitors to see what works and stuff. It's not as easy as it sounds. You can't just swap them in there. From what I've seen so far, I've been doing a bit of research. This would not be possible without probably YouTube videos like to help me along, because I'm not an expert electronics, but there's so many good YouTube channels out there on restoring vintage gear and electronics. So yeah, there's some more pictures of the side panel. So thanks. This is part 2 of restoring my Hallicrafters SX25. So stay tuned and see how the rest of it goes. It's kind of exciting. The next big stage is I'm going to replace the power cord, put in a fuse, replace all the capacitors, replace and test bad resistors. The mica caps have to be done. And then the final stage will be calibration. So, and I also want to do LED lighting. So keep watching and see how it turns out. Thanks for watching, and check out my other videos. Have a great day.